And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. That is right. It's time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be reading the news, taking a look at what's going on in the world, and having a little bit of discussion with some of the people who are able to join us in the live portion. And of course, if you are listening somewhere else and you'd like to join us in the live portion, you can find that on YouTube Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. That's at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can also find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Coffee Talk Chat, and of course, fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. So, for the benefit of those of you who are listening and not able to see, I do read through as many of the comments as is reasonable. So I'll go ahead and say hello to some of the people that have chimed in thus far. I see Helter is here today, as well as Cyberjack Sr. Brian is here. Dragon, Ragnar, and Kimberly have said hello. I am joined by three felines. Granny Smith sitting on the desk behind me. Uncle laying on the floor back there somewhere. There he is. And special guest appearance by Unknown Cat in the pet taxi on the floor next to me, because I'm keeping an eye on him. And that is the one that was dropped off yesterday. Of course, some of you may have seen the short by now that I put up on Coffee Talk and also on the cat channel, Stray Cat Sanctuary, where a neighbor, don't even know who this person is, from way up the road somewhere, rang the doorbell and had a kitten that they found and wanted to know if it was one of mine. Basically, like, I found this kitten and you got cats. I thought it might be one of yours. I'm like, no, but I mean, I'll take them. I can take care of them, because I do, of course, work with a shelter and work on getting them rehomed. Although I don't know, this one is pretty different, probably because he was so needy. But yeah, I did bring him with me today. He's sitting right here. As we get ready to dive off into actual news, not just my own personal news, and we take a look at what is going on in the world today. Big news, or it should be big news. This should be a whopper, and it's not. Is anyone talking about this? Is anyone talking about this? And this is the Russian Navy in Cuba. Haven't been there since the 60s. The Cuban Missile Crisis, they really haven't made an honest presence there. They're there now. And it's starting to make the War Department nervous. Newsweek article: U.S. submarine hunters converge on Russian flotilla off of Florida. And that's a submarine hunter right there. The aircraft, actually, believe it or not, is able to vet out submarines. So American military planes built for anti-submarine warfare flew back-to-back sorties around Florida on Tuesday as a Russian Navy flotilla sailed past the east coast of the United States. The time lapse of aircraft data from the website Flight Radar 24 showed more than a half a dozen U.S. Navy P-8A Poseidons known as submarine hunters converging on the Sunshine State. Some loitered outside U.S. territorial waters in hours-long flights near the Florida Straits, relieving one another to ensure nonstop surveillance. Publicly available data pointed to operations out of Naval Air Station Jacksonville. Russia Defense Ministry is sending a nuclear-powered submarine and 3 surface vessels to Havana, 100 miles south of Florida Key West. It is a telegraphed flex by the Kremlin meant to demonstrate that its ability to protect power in the Atlantic remains unhampered. Despite the ongoing war in Ukraine, Russia's defense ministry could not be reached for comment. Actually, it's a snub directly at the United States for the U.S.'s constant interruption in what they're doing in the Ukraine, albeit it's primarily a financial interruption. Biden all by himself practically has managed to keep that war going, and it probably would have been over a year ago. The Russian warships conducted live fire drills in the waters to simulate missile strikes on enemy vessels 370 miles away, the ministry said. The flotilla was scheduled to arrive in Cuba on Wednesday before departing on June 17th. The United States has been actively monitoring the Russian ships as they transit the Atlantic Ocean with international waters, a U.S. defense official told Newsweek. Air and maritime assets under U.S. Northern Command have conducted operations to ensure the defense of the United States and Canada. And this is the radar. I'm going to turn the radar on so that you can see. And for those of you who are watching and you see that yellow plane, the yellow planes going back and forth are the Navy sub-hunter vehicles. That's what they are. So you can see, and it is time lapsed. Obviously, they can't fly that fast. As I catch up a couple of comments here, Turk says, "Sure glad I don't live in Florida," and Raccoon is here. Urban Angst is here. Thanks for joining us today. Those are the Navy's sub-hunter planes going all up and down. It looks like they're going as high as Massachusetts, actually, from Florida, back and forth there, trying to fly over the Keys between Florida and Cuba to make sure there's no subs hiding under their flotilla, I suppose. Because, again, Russia flexing its muscles, trying to intimidate the United States. Hey, we didn't forget about you, and we know what you've done. There you are. Dragon says, Russia's saber rattling. It's going to be hilarious when it becomes obvious the U.S. doesn't give a care in the world. And Megan is here. Glad you could make it today, as well as Bob67. And Helter says, when the USA deploys aircraft and submarines to Asia and Europe, Western media call it freedom of navigation. But when the Russians or Chinese do it, Western media calls it an escalation. Of course. And they call it an escalation when we do it. And when they do it over here, they call it an exercise. You know, it's all the same games. It's all the same mess. Urban says, Russia is trolling just to remind the West what's at stake. Now let's hope the U.S. doesn't escalate unnecessarily. And that remains to be seen. But, you know, that's it's important news. It's important to consider because obviously we have no say or control in what goes on between Russian lawmakers, Chinese lawmakers, American lawmakers, the people that are in charge. We can't control what they do, and they could easily drag us into a conflict. And then we're the ones that are gonna have to fight it. And we're the ones that are gonna have to fund it because they have a problem or perceive one or invented a problem. And there's South Florida. Hey, perfect timing, South Florida, because this pertains to you. This pertains to you. There are U.S. or rather, I'm sorry, Russian war vessels off your coastline. Cuba has allowed them to have war games, I guess, and test equipment. And so now the United States Navy is sub-hunting to make sure there's no submarines hiding there, is what's going on in that image. That's time lapse of naval aircraft. And it tells you up here that that's a P-8A Poseidon. P-8A Poseidon is what those planes are. Flying around the Florida Keys, making sure that there's no submarines, possibly with a nuclear payload, hiding under the Florida Keys. And there you go. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. And they're doing it to intimidate the United States because of how invested the current federal government is, the executive branch, the Biden administration, in babysitting the Ukraine and funding their war. Not that we're the only ones doing it. There are other countries that are giving money to the Ukraine, but we're the main culprits, as most people are aware. Biden has very close ties with Ukraine. Too close, in fact. Much too close. And again, when Russia was done intimidating the Ukraine, because they've done this before, they've done this several times in Eastern Europe since the fall of the Soviet Union. Go and run over a country for a couple of weeks to push them around and then leave. They'd have been done a long time ago. I believe it. Now it's turned into a whole new problem. As I pointed out, if it comes to blows, we're the ones that are going to have to fight that fight, and we're the ones that are going to have to pay for that fight, unfortunately. Not them. You think Biden's going to be on the front line doing anything? Certainly not. Certainly. Now, something you all remember, Shalitha Robertson. You might remember Shalitha Robertson. Okay. And Doc Galt is here. He says he's a little late. That's all right. But he reminds people. Hold on. Let me make sure I'm connected because I got a prompt. I got a prompt from Restream that there was an interruption there. That's the second day in a row. Doc Galt is here, says he's a little late, but he asks people to hit the thumbs up. Please do, if you don't mind. Greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated if you could. And Urban says, I wonder about all the vacation deals for Canadians in Cuba. I used to go to Laredo and Havana twice a year and loved it. Smart, beautiful people, and welcoming of tourists. Well, it'd be a mess if it got bombed. But back to where I was here, we talked about Shalitha Robertson, who was the former district attorney of Atlanta. We talked about her the other day because she was arrested and she was found guilty. And I wanted to follow up on it. They did not explain what happened to Shalitha, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. They didn't really demonstrate what happened to her. So 95.5 USB Atlanta News and Talk is where this article is from. There's Shalitha again. To 7 years in prison for stealing 50 funds. And that's what I wanted to grapple with, because when we looked at the article, it didn't say what the sentencing was, and I guess sentencing hadn't been passed yet. But this is the follow-up. Former City of Atlanta assistant attorney and Atlanta police officer. She was in law enforcement. Shalitha Robinson, 62, has been sentenced to more than 7 years in prison after she stole $15 million in Paycheck Protection Program loans from the government during the C-virus pandemic. Robinson and other co-conspirators got the loans on behalf of 4 businesses that she owned and controlled, according to the Department of Justice. And we ran this over. She took out loans. Let me close this because I think it's interfering with Restream. She made herself eligible for those PPP loans. She misappropriated those funds. She put them in her private accounts. She transferred money to family members. She used that money to purchase a 10-carat diamond ring. And I don't mean a cluster ring. I don't mean a cluster. I mean a 10-carat freaking diamond. We're talking a $2 million ring. She bought a Rolls Royce. She was living high on the hog off of that money and got caught. I mean, if you're going to steal money, be smart about it, huh? Seriously? I feel like Archie Bunker here. Hey, be smart about it, huh? What are you, stupid? Yeah, she was stupid. She couldn't resist showing off what she did. And Fluke Man has joined us. Glad you could make it today. Couldn't resist it. Couldn't resist showing off. Couldn't resist. I mean, spending millions. You stole 15 million and you were spending millions at a time. Millions of dollars. Okay? It just doesn't make any damn sense. It's foolish is what it is. Never mind the fact that you stole. But I wasn't sure what had happened to her specifically other than that she was found guilty. Now it's been revealed that they sentenced her to 7 years. We'll see how much of that time she does. I don't know how much of anything that they're going to be able to recover. I mean, they could certainly they could use it. I mean, they could confiscate what she purchased and turn around and sell it. They're not going to recover what was paid for it, especially not at public auction. And Doc says, didn't the former Baltimore DA get convicted of the same thing? I believe she used it to buy a vacation home in Florida, didn't she? Am I thinking of the right one? And Raccoon says, I guess she didn't watch Goodfellas. Never spend big after a heist. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Never spend big. I wanted to see what happened to her, and there you go. And I watched some of her podcast. She's a motivational speaker, a religious motivational speaker. And I watched one of her clips off of YouTube, and she talked about, are you ready for it? I should have saved the clip so I could show you. She talked about how you shouldn't chase money. Don't make money the focus of your attention. Like, oh my God, hypocrite. Hypocrite. Dragon says a convicted Democrat seems too good to be true. I know. Well, she's only an Atlanta district attorney. She's not that important. And Doc says, yeah, Mosley was her name. Okay, so I'm thinking of the right district attorney. And you know what's? I hate pointing fingers, and I hate being the guy. It's all these big lawmakers. It's all these diversity hires. Seriously. Helter says 7 years in jail for 15 million seems like a small price to pay compared to the lengthy sentence J6 protesters received. No kidding. Some of those guys, 2 decades in jail. And Tuck says some cops are under investigation for the same fraud. A lot of people did the same thing. A lot of people did the same thing. But while we're on the subject of corruption, I got another one for you. We're going to jump to Texas. This is not a lawmaker, but it is another community leader. This is a pastor. And you want to talk lengthy jail sentences. Dallas Morning News. North Texas pastor convicted of stealing real estate from churches, sentenced to 35 years. 35 years. Holy crap. See, he should have been in politics. He would have gotten a smaller sentence. It would have been easier on him. Whitney Foster. Whitney is a man, by the way, I believe. 56. Was found guilty of theft of property greater than $300,000 in mid-May and sentenced to 35 years in prison. According to court records, a Dallas County jury also ordered Foster to pay an $8,000 fine, court records show. You know, when there's an imbalance like that, that bothers me. Okay? You put him in jail for 35 years, but you want to give him an $8,000 fine? That doesn't seem like it makes sense. Foster led a small congregation, True Foundation non-denominational church. I'll repeat that. True Foundation non-denominational church that did not have a physical place of worship. So he didn't even have an actual building, according to prosecutors. Prosecutors alleged at trial he filed fraudulent deeds to take property from 3 North Texas churches. First Christian Church of Lancaster, Canada Drive Christian Churchland Church at Nineveh. Wow, is that all one title? It said 3 churches, but it only tells me 2. According to prosecutors, the combined value of the stolen property totaled more than $800,000. So, yeah, think about this in contrast. This is a pastor in Texas, misappropriates $800,000 in, I guess, land holdings from legitimate churches, gets 35 years in prison. But an Atlanta district attorney, a lawmaker, a politician, steals $15 million in taxpayer money. 7 years. Maybe she'll do 7 years. It says here, stealing real estate is an incredibly serious and damaging crime. It's worse than theft of someone's vehicle or other possessions, according to Dallas County District Attorney John Creuzot, as he said in a statement. When someone steals property, we must hold them accountable because they are hurting people. You're hurting people no matter what you do. 2 of the 3 properties are still under Foster or his church's name, according to the DA's new release, and the 3rd property remains entangled in legal proceedings. That might be why they didn't name the 3rd church. The congregation still gathers at one of the Dallas churches, the DA office said. And hold on a second. Let me back that. Is it going to try to show me an ad? Unbelievable. Pain in the butt. I wanted to show his picture. Let me back that up. Is it going to work? I hate these things. See? And it forces an ad on you, and then you're just kind of screwed. There he is. For those of you who can see, that's him. 56-year-old Whitney Foster. Not Whitney Houston. Pastor Whitney Foster. That church is a mouthful, though. I read the names of those 2 churches, and I guess, like I said, the 3rd one is up in the air. But, wow, Canada Drive, Christian Churchland Church at Nineveh. I wonder how many people accidentally say Canada Dry instead of Canada Drive. I guess you have to be my age to do that. And I'll go ahead and catch up some of the comments here. But look at the sharp contrast in the level of punishment there. At the level of punishment, it doesn't make any sense. And Cyberjack Sr. made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Cyberjack. It says, first super chat ever. You deserve to see a cat. Let me catch up. And Heck the Overnight has joined us, as well as Chillin' Dave and Monkey. Bunch of people jumped in. And Helter says, must have gotten his direction from Genesis 069. Steal it first before others do. Yeah, do unto others before they do to you. Or what was that in, what was the name of that movie? If I can remember the name of the film. The Fighting Temptations. The Fighting Temptations. It was kind of a gospel comedy film. And the one guy says, get your money, man. It's in the Bible, in the back somewhere. I seen it. Raccoon says, I was thinking that too. They must really love soda to have a church. Yes, that was a long title. I suppose I could, let me see how my friend is doing here. Come here, buddy. If I can reach him. There he is. No, don't look at me. Look at the camera. No name, random cat that a neighbor that I don't even know brought to my doorstep. If you were watching yesterday, at about a minute, just about a minute before I went off the air, you heard the doorbell chime. That was that person with this cat in a box. It was a woman with a little girl who looked like she was about 8 years old from down the street. I don't know who she is, but for some reason she knows that I take care of cats. Here you go, buddy. She knows I take care of cats. So she brought him here and asked if it was one of mine, and it wasn't, but I was able to take it. And the little girl was like, but I want to keep him. And she was like, no, you need to ask your mama. And I told the little girl that, you know, it's a lot of responsibility, especially if you've got an abandoned kitten. And she was like, it's okay, because I have a little brother. But, you know, it's really funny how little kids try to do weird things to justify their behavior, to justify what they want. I know you want to see that, right? That's the best thing you saw all day. Oh, he ruined this nipple. I'm going to need to replace it. And this is kitten formula, I should say. It's actual proper kitten formula. But I figured he was due. So no name. He was very dehydrated. They had him in a cardboard box with a saucer of water and a chicken bone. And he won't eat or drink anything. It was like, he can't. He's too young. He's not weaned off of even using a nipple yet. he still needs to suckle for nourishment. He's not going to drink anything out of a dish. It's too small. And then she was like, yeah, you better, I'll ask your mama if you can have him, but you better leave him here because this guy knows what he's doing. So there we go. There we go. There's your kitten therapy for the day, everybody. You can hear him drinking. Yeah, this is for the algorithm, I guess. This is for the algorithm, folks, because by no means is ScrewTube done tormenting me. Chillin says, name him Lucky. Yeah, he kind of is, I guess. Kimberly says, sweet baby, his name is Random Cat. And Raccoon says, oh my God, you got to name him Salem. Here we go. And Tuck says, a little black kitten came to my door day before yesterday. He's napping in my wife's chair now. I think you commented, didn't you, on the cat channel about the kitten coming to your door. So I'm glad you were able to get hold of him. And Random Blip says kitten. That's right. It is a kitten. Hi. How you doing, buddy? How you doing, buddy? So he's very well behaved. Like I said, he was dehydrated. He's doing great now. He's done being scared. The other cats hate him. But, you know, that's any new cat. They're going to treat a cat like that. They're going to treat a cat like that for a few days. As we move around here, we'll jump to New York. We'll jump to New York. I don't know if you can hear him. And he's purring pretty loudly. We're going to jump to New York and see what's going on there. Back to actual news for a little bit. Associated Press article. A New York County with one of the nation's largest police forces is deputizing armed residents. So this is what it's come to, huh? This is what it's come to, and that's Nassau County. So there we go. Minola, New York, a suburban New York county with one of the largest police forces in the nation, is training dozens of armed residents who could be called up during natural disasters and other major emergencies, sparking worry that the new volunteer unit amounts to an unsanctioned local militia. Yeah, I could see that argument being made. Nassau County Sheriff's officials posted a notice in March seeking private citizens with gun licenses to serve as provisional special deputy sheriffs who could assist in the protection of human life and property during an emergency. 25 have completed training in recent weeks, but locals who have been rallying against the scheme question the need for the unit and have raised concerns about the potential for over-policing after departments across the county cracked down on protests against the Israeli-Hamas war. Democrats, who are the minority in the county legislature, and some community advocates say they worry Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman, a Republican and staunch supporter of former President Trump, could call up the deputies to quell political dissent, a charge he strongly denies. Critics also contend that emergencies require a different type of volunteer. Well, you know, with New York being overrun by illegal immigrants and there being crime waves in New York now because of this, that could be exactly what they think they need. What are you doing to me? I can totally see the concern, though, because, you know, that whole concept reeks of the possibility for like a brown shirt sort of a situation when you're using or deputizing citizens and letting them just run roughshod over whatever the situation is. I don't trust citizens any more than I trust, especially citizens who got a big head and have been deputized into something. Take themselves pretty damn seriously, too seriously sometimes. So it all depends on what they're going to be used for. It all depends on what they're going to be used for. And Jane says, what happened in Atlanta yesterday? 2 shootings. I didn't hear about a shooting. It doesn't surprise me, though. It doesn't surprise me. And Gary Edwards is here. Glad you could make it. And Doc says that's how posses get started, deputizing civilians. Brian says the other cat is watching you too. Yeah, she's watching. That's Granny Smith back there, and Uncle is still in the room as well, right? Uncle is still in the room as well. And Helter said that the whole thing is a ticking time bomb. This is basically like approving a paramilitary group and giving them license to take over in an emergency. Where are you going? I don't want you to fall. Yeah, now I've lost control of the show because of this kitten. Chillin said the old Western movies where the sheriff grabs some townfolk to catch scum is wrong. Yeah, well, sometimes you need to, but I guess if they're going to have to round people up, they may as well round up people that are duly deputized, is what's being suggested. What do you think? You want to be a deputy? And Urban says in Vancouver, the pro-Hamas demonstrators were hanging out on the steps of the art gallery and behaving like a bunch of jerks, we'll just say. And that's what they do. What do they care about an art gallery? I thought you weren't supposed to represent an image. I thought it was a violation of their cultural beliefs to duplicate an image. So art to them is offensive. Isn't that right? What do you think? Art is offensive to them because it duplicates the image of something natural, which according to the Quran is a violation. But they don't mind being filmed or photographed for some reason. That's all I got to say. And then Dragon says this smells like someone getting ready to send deputies out to harass people at the polls in November. Yeah, that's what they accused the sheriff of. Or not the sheriff, but the lawmaker who initiated the plan. That's what they accused him of, as trying to use them to strong arm people at the polls. I don't see that, but I do see them being used to strong arm people if they're angry about election results, if you follow my drift. I could see that. So what are you going to do? And they already have a massive police force anyways, and that's really the interesting part. It says that, and New York does. New York State, period. Never mind Nassau County, has one of the largest police forces in the world. I think New York City has the largest police force in the country, followed by who's next on that list? We just read it the other day, too. I'm just totally distracted. I can't think. And I know for those of you who are able to see, he likes getting under my beard, too. It is a male cat. And he likes getting under my beard. And he licks me there. But yeah, I've opened up a big can of worms now by pulling him out of his little habitat. And Raccoon made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Raccoon. Much appreciated. It says Sheba Dog squeezed a big red heart. Yeah, we appreciate all the help we can get. In taking care of the felines. I'm back to 20 again anyways. I was at 21, but one's been adopted. So this one replaces the one that just left. So now we're at 20 again. We're at 20. Until the other brood of kittens gets adopted, which the shelter, the Halo House, is looking forward to, because video of those kittens has already been seen and people are excited about it, but they're not ready to be weaned for at least a month. So they'll be hanging around here for a little while. Kami Thong says the religion of peace led by a pedophile who went on 95 war expeditions. Yeah. The religion of peace, it's not. Go to the Middle East and just look around. They don't even like each other. They don't like each other, do they? No, they don't. They don't even like each other. They fight amongst themselves all the time. And Fluke Man said, there's some video of security guards overreacting. There's one video, a security guard pointed his gun at a cop in his uniform when he went to check on his tax at the local office. Really? And Urban says Canada doesn't need civilian harassers. They just send uniformed RCMP officers to your door for a friendly chat. But yeah, and they have citizen brigades. You see that that's kind of what they were trying to do with what do they call it? Neighborhood watch back in the day. People see something, say something. That's like kind of a citizens brigade sort of thing, but neighborhood watch doesn't really work anymore because nobody really gives a shit. They do have citizen brigades like that in a lot of communist countries, like you see it in China, and it's Chinese citizens that wear, is it a green armband? I'm trying to remember. They got an armband on, and they're not really law enforcement, but they're like deputized. They're not even armed, but they're official rats, and they go around and they tell on people and get them in trouble with the actual police. So that's a thing. But that's kind of what they want in this country, anyways. Is a lot of people who just go around and tell on each other all the time, as if technology's not already doing it to us. As if technology's not already doing it to us. As we get ready to shift gears here. What did you do with my pen? I had a pen there, Kitty. Newsweek article. Newsweek article talking about King Charles's portrait. And I know you've seen that weird portrait that he did and all of the connections that people drew up, talking about how it's demonic and all these other things. I don't know if it's demonic or not, but it's certainly an odd looking portrait because of all the red coloring. And it has garnered a lot of attention in the press. But now those like is it stop oil protesters or is it animal rights protesters attacked the portrait this week? As we see here in this article, King Charles portrait defaced by protesters in the stupidest way possible. It's actually kind of funny. It says official King Charles III portrait that made waves with its bright red color has been targeted by animal rights activists who stuck pictures on it. Animal Rising said the posters were stuck on with water and would be easily removable, as it sought to pressure the king to distance himself from the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Does that not sound pretty stupid? Actually, they're an animal rights group. Animal Rising is an animal rights group, and they want the king to distance himself from the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Did I miss something? Yes, I hear you. Did I miss something? And what they did was they took basically two big stickers and put them on the portrait. But they can't touch the portrait because, like every other portrait, it's encased in glass. And there's the video clip of them putting these up. And I got to keep asking the question. How the hell do these people get into these museums with this shit? Not just the stupid posters that they put over the glass there. So, I mean, basically, they're going to get a slap on the wrist because they didn't actually damage anything. But they had paint rollers with poles. Did you catch that? For those of you who can see this, look at that. That's a paint roller with a pole. How did you get in the museum with that? I bet you I couldn't get in there with a flashlight or a pocket knife. How did they get away with that? How does that work? I wonder how much of these things are staged as a result of that. I question that all the time. It says members of the group stuck the face of a famous animated character, Wallace, of course, Wallace and Gromit, From this hit comedy franchise, Wallace and Gromit Over Charles's Face, the painting by Jonathan Yeo was unveiled in May, and it immediately turned heads with its striking background color. Daniel Juniper, involved in Tuesday's protest at the Philip Mould Gallery in London, said in a statement released by Animal Rising, "Even though we hope this is amusing to His Majesty, we also call on him to seriously reconsider if he wants to be associated with the awful suffering across farms being endorsed by the RSPCA. Charles has made it clear he is sensitive to the suffering of animals in the United Kingdom farms. Now is the perfect time for him to step up and call on the RSPCA to drop the assured scheme and tell the truth about animal farming." And there is that very bizarre portrait of Charles. That has been the center of so much controversy. And I'll catch up a couple of comments here. Urban Angst says it's certainly a creepy portrait, and I don't think it's a coincidence. That's what he wanted, though. But why? It's not the first time in the royal lineage a portrait's been kind of done this way, although it's been like at least more than a century. It's been more than a century. Brian says it's a pale version of Super Mario without his nose, hat, and mustache. And then Monkey said it would have been more funny if they just plastered Wallace's face on Charles and that'd be it. And then Dragon says defacing the portrait will only turn people against animal rights. Acts like that are gratuitous and self-serving. Yes, they are. It's stupid. And then you're a society for the prevention of the cruelty to animals, but then you want him to distance himself from a society for the prevention of cruelty to animals because I guess you just don't like the way they do it. You just don't like the way that they handle it, I suppose. And Cyberjack says it looks like a screenshot from the Blob movie. Which one? Which version of the Blob? The 50s version or the 80s version? The 80s version was better. You know what's funny about the 50s version is the original 50s Blob movie version starred Steve McQueen, and he was playing a teenager, but he looked like he was 42. He looked way too old for the part. And the cop is saying, "Listen here, kid." And I'm like, "Kid, Steve McQueen look older than you. What do you want, little girl?" Little girl's here, sticking her nose into things. Cut it out now. All right, we're losing control of the cats. The newer version, Cyberjack Sr. says, yeah, the newer version was much better. The newer version was much better than the original version of the film. But the 80s had a lot of great films, including remakes, which is surprising because very often remakes, they just don't cut it. You know what I mean? They just don't cut it. But there we go. Again, another little fake protest. They stuck something on the glass. They didn't actually touch the portrait. They couldn't if they wanted to. If they actually did touch the portrait, they do real jail time, and we can't have that, can we? We can't have that. I may end up keeping this one. He's very, very friendly, but probably because he was, I don't know how long he was abandoned, so he's probably very frightened and very needy. And Frankie says, do you ever have control of cats? Sometimes. They listen to you if they're used to you. I've gotten them to stop fighting before, which I don't recommend if you don't know what you're doing, because you can be seriously injured by a cat, actually. Believe it or not. A cat will hurt you worse than a dog in some circumstances. As we shift gears here, we're going to jump from the United Kingdom to California with more great ideas for how to waste your tax money. Governor Nuisance and his building project. What's the matter? His building project, and this is a United Liberty article. LA is building a homeless people's shelter in a 19-story building homeless people a 19-story luxury apartment building using taxpayer funds. Well, everything is taxpayer funds. I mean, that's just a given. Los Angeles is taking an unconventional approach to tackle its homeless crisis by constructing a luxury 19-story apartment building in Skid Row, as reported by Fox News in a recent video. This project, funded by taxpayer money, aims to provide homeless individuals with high-quality living spaces and amenities, sparking debate and criticism among residents and officials alike. The new high-rise, part of the 3-building project, is set to open soon and will feature 228 studio apartments and 51 bedroom apartments. Each unit costs approximately $600,000 to build. Translation: are they talking about each unit being each apartment, or each building is going to be $600,000? I can't imagine they're going to build a 19-story building for $600,000. It says the building is designed to offer homeless individuals a chance to live in a dignified and supportive environment, complete with amenities such as a gym, a cafe, and an art studio. Oh, that's great. The luxury apartment building boasts an array of amenities that go beyond typical homeless shelters. Residents will have access to gyms equipped with treadmills, rower bikes, and a cable machine. Additionally, there is a common patio area, an art room, a soundproof music room. Oh, for those homeless DJs, when they want to scratch the record. A computer room, a library, and a cafe. The aim is to create a supportive community that promotes wellness and stability for its residents. I want to live there. Move me in. The project is financed through Proposition Triple H. That makes me think of Austin Powers and his project Preparation H. Proposition Triple H, a supportive housing program approved by Los Angeles voters in 2016. I don't think they knew what they were getting themselves into. It also receives funding from state housing funds and $56 million in state tax credits. The total cost of the project is estimated at $165 million. Critics argue that the high cost per unit is excessive and raises questions about the efficient use of taxpayer money. So it is $600,000 per apartment. Holy crap. The luxury high-rise has received mixed reactions from politicians and the public. Some praise the initiative, yeah, I bet they do, for addressing the homeless crisis with innovative solutions, while others criticize it for being an imprudent use of public funds. Here's the thing. This has been done before. It's called a housing project. The U.S. has tried and failed with these projects for decades. They spend a fortune building something like this. It looks pretty. It looks good on paper. They put people in it, and it gets destroyed in a few months. And then they end up abandoning the project. It gets run into the ground. 20 years later, there's a demolition crew blowing the building up. What a waste. What's wrong? What a waste. And Brian says, sounds more like a hotel than an apartment building. Indeed. And Urban and Doc says they interpret it as each apartment, and I believe that is correct. And Helta says, nice apartments. I need to identify as a homeless person in California. Yeah, but I mean, that's not going to last. It's a bunch of amenities that they'll steal from, that they're going to destroy, that they're not going to be able to maintain the use of. Eventually, they'll start locking those rooms up. They'll get broken into. Equipment will be stolen and sold for scrap. Fluke Man says sometimes BLM, LGB, animals rights people, and climate change activists, maybe people from the right and neutralists, to do stupid things, spread rumors, cause riots to make the groups look bad. That could be. That could be. Frankie says he didn't vote for that crap, just another laundry scheme to line contractors' pockets. That's possible. That is very possible. And Doc says Cabrini Green is a prime example. Yeah, we talked about Cabrini Green before. But yeah, they all start with good intentions. It all looks good on paper. It all looks good on paper. All the way up until you actually start putting people in there and you cannot control the element of person that you put into those locations. And then you lose control of the situation. That's usually what happens. You lose control of it very quickly. Because the only way that you can maintain it is if you spend a fortune policing every single little thing that everybody does, which they tried in Cabrini Green, if I'm thinking of the right one, because that was supposed to be for unwed mothers. It wasn't supposed to be men there in Cabrini Green. Am I thinking of the right thing? One, Doc, because I've talked about it before. I watched a documentary on it. But it was supposed to be to help out. If you're a single mother, here we've got this real inexpensive apartment. But people misrepresented themselves, pretending to be single mothers, to move into the cheap apartment and kept sneaking their husbands or boyfriends in. And then when the state found out about it, they started policing the area. They said, okay, we're going to have social workers going to door all the time to knock on the doors and make sure there's no dudes hanging around. And if we keep catching these people with their husbands, or that they told us that they were single mothers or boyfriends or whoever the hell staying there, then we're going to have to evict them. Then they say, oh, well, you set us up. And you can see this in the documentary. Oh, they set us up because they created a situation whereby we had to pretend to be separate. No, you didn't have to pretend. You could have gone somewhere else instead of misrepresenting yourself and lying to the state to get a cheaper apartment. That's what you did. And it eventually broke down that they destroyed the buildings. They destroyed the buildings. And it really started getting ugly when social workers and police had to be around there all the time to maintain order. And then they just abandoned the places. They just abandoned the places. Turk says, I wish we could see the look on the junkies' faces when they tear open walls for copper and find PEX. Yeah, well, they'll be too busy in the art studio or in the sound studio because, there's so many, like I said, homeless MCs and disc jockeys out there. They're just waiting for a break into Hollywood. They're waiting for the right producer to find. Maybe the producers will find them there. And Fluke Man says one of the very few places that actually needs HOA but doesn't have it. Homeowners Association. Homeowners associations are a nightmare, but they will help to keep out the riffraff. You got to give them that much. That's about the only benefit to HOAs. The only freaking benefit. And I don't know if you saw this. I did this short today. Showing, let me see if I can pause this. Okay. I did a short today talking about solar power. And anytime you do anything, in social media, you're just setting yourself up for disaster because somebody's going to say something stupid. But it's an interesting study. Now, what you see in that image, for those of you who can see, and I don't know if you saw this short or not, this is one of those camera units, okay, that you see in parking lots sometime. It's a huge battery with solar panels on the side and a long pole with cameras on top. And it records all the activity in the parking lot in case something jumps off, right? Now it's overcast. It's not working well today. I caught this at a Walmart. And so this truck that's sitting there is running a generator to beef up the battery so that the camera unit doesn't shut down. And so I did a short of it and just explained what it was. And people get so angry. People get so angry at you. And it ties in with what I'm always saying about people in general, that people are not that smart. And they're not very nice either. They're actually pretty cruel. Now you get this one person here comment, sure, because one panel with no storage is totally the same as dozens or hundreds of dedicated storage banks to draw from when overcast. Okay. If you're on a grid with solar, the electric company is taking the extra power from you. They're not redistributing it, number one. Secondly, have you ever seen one of these units? I'm going to assume this person has never seen one of these, or if they did see it, they don't know how it works. That thing is like 95% battery. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? That big white thing that's about the size of the pickup truck that's parked next to it is a battery. It's like 95% battery. It's 7 by 5 by 4 on wheels with a solar panel and a pole with a camera. What do you think that big cube with the air vents and lights is? What do you think that is, honey? It's called power storage. It is a battery. And all of that to run a camera. And can't do it because there isn't enough sunlight. But I'm the idiot. All right. All right. And then this guy, let me see down here. Who cares about being courteous? I sure as hell don't care about how you feel. If you don't care how I feel or anybody feels, why comment? You're commenting for attention. You must care how someone feels. This guy, you know you should really get a hobby or maybe even a job. How do you know I don't have a hobby? How do you know I don't have a job? That's very presumptuous of you. But unfortunately, putting yourself out there opens you up to the worst in humanity. It really does. A basic, just little short, meant to get people thinking. That's all I can ask anybody to do who sees anything that I put out there. Think. Use your head. No, we can't use our head. They don't understand clearly. And it's not because they're incapable. Like I said, people are not that smart, but they have potential. You have to want to be ignorant. And that takes work. That takes as much effort to be and remain ignorant as it does to learn something. You're not sure about what that thing is? Look it up. I'm sure you can find something on it on Google or Bing or whatever the hell you're using. It's a massive 2,000-pound freaking battery with a pole and a camera. And the solar power is not working today. It's too dark out. So they go and they charge it. Yeah, Frankie says, warning, you're trespassing and being recorded. Leave now or authorities will be called. Yeah, there you go. Urban says, because of the environment. Exactly. And Brian says, I hate people and in crowds. And Doc says, we live in a society today where certain people have zero accountability for the words they say. Exactly. And they don't even know what they're talking about. That person clearly doesn't understand what that thing is. But they're going to comment. They're going to comment. It's just like with the cat, even the cat videos. You can do no right. You can do nothing right. I put up a cat short. Take a look, because sometimes I get nasty comments on those from people telling me, oh, it's because of you that there's too many cats. And, oh, yeah, they're going to breed out of control and you're going to contaminate the environment. And it's like, I said in the short, if you were paying attention, that I'm working with a shelter and that the cats are going to be worked on by a vet and they're going to be rehomed. I actually said that in the short, but I guess you missed that part. I guess you weren't even listening. You weren't even listening. And people don't listen to you. They want to run their mouth over you, but they don't want to listen. They don't want to listen. Gary Edwards says proposition Triple H equals Cabrini grain. Pretty much. Or any other. Name your housing project, because there's still several of them that are standing today all over the place. They're a project, and especially on the East Coast, there's a bunch of them in Boston. There's a bunch of them in New York that have been there for decades, and they're war zones. They've got walls around them. They got walls around them and curfews. It's crazy. Turk says you cannot reason with the green cult. You can't reason with any cult. Oh, and there's That's Life. You're late today. It says, good evening, cats rule. Yeah. There's Miss Granny Smith, if you can see. And you just missed Unknown Cat. The Unknown Cat. The one that was brought to me yesterday. Somebody brought me this one and asked to see if it was one of mine and asked me to take care of it. There he is. Hi. He was dehydrated and frightened, but he's doing great now. This is the highlight of the whole show right there. The best thing you'll see all day. Isn't that right? Okay. But with that, we are at the top of the hour. So I'm going to go ahead and start signing off. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk. And you can join the live portion if you're listening somewhere else on YouTube, Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. Special thanks today to Cyberjack Sr. and Raccoon, who made donations to the channel. Helps a lot with taking care of all these felines. You just don't want to be in there, do you? Taking care of all the felines. Thanks again to everyone else who was able to join us here today. Hope you got something out of the conversation. And we will do this again.